It's time for Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM.
Good morning and welcome to Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. I'm Connor Foster, and I'm here in the studio with Ted Prezelski and Greg Foster. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
Good morning, Connor.
You know, I saw a story this morning that apparently Bruce Arena has been brought on by Fox Sports 1 to add to the panel of analysts that they have for the MLS Cup.
But I think after he got let go by the New York Red Bulls, I think ESPN used him, if I remember correctly. And it was kind of funny because he was still basically a coach for, and the way he talked about, I wouldn't have done that.
Well, I love that. It's like Tim Howard when he's doing the EPL games. You can almost hear him saying, it's an unfortunate error by the keeper that I never would have made that decision, but he can't say that. So
right.
Is it really – I mean, I bet you Coach Arena will be a little bit even more direct. But I want to get back to one thing you said. You said panel of analysts, and I want to just suggest that that's hard to say.
Yes, panel of analysts, it is hard to say. My theater training really kicks in.
Are they – Are there actually multiple analysts, or are there going to be? Will it be like a straight guy who asks a question, and then there will be an analyst like Bruce Arena?
I think that there are usually multiple analysts. I think that, Alexi Lalas works with Fox Sports now too, right? So there will probably be him, and then someone else, and then Bruce Arena, and then the straight man.
Yeah, and
everyman.
I think Alexi Lalas is actually there just to make Twitter angry.
I just think it's funny because there's no way that Bruce Arena isn't going to show a little bit of his bitterness about not being still in the MLS Cup and an obvious bias with some of these coaches and some of these teams too.
Do you think Alexi Lalas and Bruce Arena will agree on everything down the line?
Absolutely not. I think that they'll disagree. I think that Alexi Lalas is going to try to disagree with Bruce Arena. That just seems like something that he would do.
All right, when can we see these guys? Because now I'm interested.
I think Fox Sports is doing the games tomorrow, so obviously all the MLS Cup games tomorrow, you should be able to catch Bruce Arena talking about some of the games. But anyway, we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to start with a recap of some local events, local soccer games, local soccer teams. Then, really exciting in the second segment, we're going to have Donny Toia on the line. He's former FC Tucson striker and current Montreal Impact left back. So he's kicking the ball around with Didier Drogba right now, and he's playing in the MLS Cup. So we're going to do that. We're also going to preview all of the MLS Cup games to come and a bunch more. So stay with us because we got an exciting show coming. So let's start with UofA women's.
No, let's not.
No, we got to start with UofA women's.
This is a sore spot. Why would you start here?
Because we have to. We got to talk about this. They've had a really, really solid season so far. They're going into the game against ASU yesterday, ranked number 23 in the nation, and they came away with a 4-1 defeat to Arizona State.
Can I tell you what my number one worst moment was?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
I think it may have been Laura Pimienta and Mackenzie Berryhill from ASU, who we saw during the summer season too, had slammed into each other, and Mackenzie Berryhill actually really milked it and got the foul, and it was, and so the whole crowd is just, at that point it was 4-0, and the whole crowd is just, taunting her and everything, and she does that whole she smiles with her hand by her ear, kind of thing, and it was one of those moments that I was like, if Schieffer Skadson had done that, I would have been like, yeah, cool, you go get him. and instead I'm like, well, screw you. You don't come to our town and do that.
I don't think you were there were a lot. I'm not mistaken. There were a good amount of fans.
Actually,
night, right?
yes. They I think it was over 1,300, which is
wow. That's a great number. That's an awesome number. And I remember last night I was at home and I was watching the UofA Snap story, which basically is just a combination of a bunch of Snapchats from students at UofA. And the UofA women's soccer team came up, and there were multiple Snapchats before the game, UofA is going to beat ASU, UofA is going to beat ASU, and then right as after the game ended, just nothing. UofA, nothing on the Snap story. Nobody was Snapchatting anything after that. So obviously an upsetting defeat for the U of A women's. But what can they take from this going forward, Ted? Was there anything promising? Is there anything promising to come?
Well, they were able to. I mean, they actually outshot ASU in the first half. I mean, I'm trying. I think it was 7 for the U of A and 2 for ASU. Unfortunately, the 2 for ASU were goals,
Yeah.
and that's. But so I think that's something that, and they were actually able to keep their heads together enough to score a goal in the second half, to not get shut out, and so that's a good thing. And this is a team that, if you look at those. And I've written about this before. If you look at those road weekends, where they'll play, they'll fly off to wherever and play 2 schools somewhere else. If they have a poor game on Friday, they are able to get things back together for the game on Sunday, and often win that match. And that's actually something that is very, very difficult to do. I mean, you're not going back to your home field and working out plays or watching video or anything like that. That's all mentality. So I think they can do that, and they are still in the tournament. I mean, this wasn't. I shouldn't say that. We don't know officially, but they are still regarded as a team that will go to the tournament. I don't know how home field is selected for these matches, but they were hoping to be able to host a game. I think winning last night would have made that more likely, but who knows?
Well, I mean, obviously consistency is key on every level of the sport, but also super difficult to keep up, your style of play and
well, actually, can I say one thing in favor of ASU too? I mean, their record is kind of deceptive, because they played a bunch of their games without Callie Farquharson, who last night was her, unfortunately, 8th, 9th, and 10th goal of the season. And that's pretty considerable for anyone, but especially someone that missed a bunch of games. It was those games she missed where they were losing. And they've also got, folks like Allie Moon and Mackenzie Berryhill and stuff, who were all amazing players. So this was not like losing to a bottom feeder team somewhere.
Right.
Well, I think our expectations are so much higher now. I mean, isn't it fair to say it's surprising when U of A loses, and frankly, it's shocking if they don't if they lose in a lopsided way? I mean, isn't this different than it has been maybe 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and I think that you have to look at this. Like, I mean, whenever ASU comes to town, or whenever U of A travels to Phoenix to play ASU, the results are never what you may have expected. I think that goes for every sport, every college sport that both schools participate in. The U of A basketball team is usually expected to be far superior than the ASU basketball team, but many times U of A will lose to ASU and vice versa. But anyway, it's not all doom and gloom for Tucson soccer teams right now, because Pima, both on the men's side and the women's side, got some really, really great results last week. They both the men's and the women's teams won the regional finals last week. The men won 3-2, and the women won 2-1. So the men this weekend, today actually, are traveling up to Otero Junior College for what's called the West District Championship. Basically, what that is a play-in game to make it to the national tournament.
And by the way, that was who Pima played last year.
That was who Pima played in this game last year too. And what was the result of that game?
Pima won.
Pima won. Great. So this is the West District Championship, and this is their ticket to the national tournament, which the women have already qualified for. The women don't have to take this step. So Ted, Greg, what do you guys think of these Pima teams so far?
Well, we've talked about it before, where it's just, it's a tribute to both coaches. I think that they're able to, they've, and I've talked about this before, where they've both got a pretty good pool to recruit from. I mean, all the local high schools, but they also managed to put together teams where, to kind of take players that maybe had different roles in high school that they end up playing on the Pima team, and do that very quickly. I mean, they don't have a long preseason, I think they maybe play 2 games, I think, that are off schedule matches, and they're usually not very competitive, but they're able to do that, and that's that's pretty remarkable, I think.
Yeah, I mean, really, just like with U of A soccer, at this point, the expectations that we have locally for Pima men and women are starting to be off the charts. I mean, now they're back in a position to both being in a national championship chase, and what a fantastic run both of these programs have been on.
But I want to veer away from the local game for a second, just because this always becomes our tiny little moment to acknowledge what's going on with Chelsea. And just the end
that
of the
should
first
be
segment.
a segment, right? What's going on with Chelsea?
What's going on with Chelsea? But basically, Chelsea has had a mixed week because they got a much needed victory in Champions League. So now I think they're at the top of their table. Or they're
who
second
they beat
in their
in Champions
table.
League?
I want to say Dynamo Kiev.
Okay, well, so it wasn't like Maribor.
No,
or
it
okay.
wasn't. I don't think it was a team. I think I could be wrong though. But anyway, I think they got a much needed result there, and they're sitting at 7 points, and I think second place in their table actually. So they did okay in Champions League, but I think it was just announced either yesterday or this morning that Jose Mourinho is going to have to serve a one-match ban from being on the sideline with the team in a match that's going to prove to be pretty crucial to their season today. So what do you guys think about this spiraling downfall of Chelsea?
Well, when I think about Mourinho, I often think about his kind of rivalry going back with Pep Guardiola a few years in Spain, and how the two of them, the different approaches to the game, their different approaches to the media. And the first thing I thought, you're right, he's going to be banned from a stadium. So Guardiola came out this week after their Champions League game, and he said that his goal for Bayern is 100% possession. And Mourinho's goal is going to have to be presence in the stadium. It's really, this is a tale of two managers. I love Guardiola's statement. Obviously, that's absurd, but fun to think about if you really think about it.
Not fun for the other team.
No, it would be terrible for it might be fun for the fans of Bayern. But Mourinho he seems to be decompensating at this point. I mean, it's like following the Kardashians. I mean, every single week something crazy is happening that you would never presume a professional manager would be involved in. So he's banned now as a result of refusing to leave a referee's locker room. And having used profanity with the referee and criticizing him and invoking Arsene Wenger as somebody who agreed with him that this referee was
He name-dropped Arsene Wenger in the referee
I agree with
locker
Wenger.
room.
What This referee is
How
weak.
could you possibly disagree with these
What do you
two
think
managers?
Wenger was thinking?
I
did not say that.
In Mourinho's defense, how in trouble would we all be if we were banned every time we used profanity toward a referee?
If you had cornered a referee in his locker room, refused to leave, and then used profanity, I'm not sure this is a baseless ban.
Well, was it profanity in Portuguese? Because I'm sure it's like,
Right, because in Portuguese that meant something entirely different. I love your decisions as a referee.
No. I was thinking about how classy it would sound.
I think his accent sounds pretty classy anyway. But we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to have John Perlman in the studio, and we're going to interview Donny Toia, the Montreal Impact. Stick around. You're listening to Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson, 1490 and 104.9 FM. Welcome back to Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson, 1490 and 104.9 FM. I'm Connor Foster. I'm in the studio with John Perlman and Ted Prezelski, and we got Donny Toia, former FC Tucson player, current Montreal Impact left back, on the line right now. How's it going, Donny?
It's going good. How are you guys doing?
Not too shabby.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, that's right.
Donny, how's your French coming? I think that's the first question here.
I got zero French so far. So.
We don't blame you. That's a tough language. French is tough. I just want to preface this by saying that you've made Montreal Impact fans out of all three of us in the studio right now, and I think all of us are pushing for Montreal to make the MLS Cup and get pretty far and probably win too. Montreal's a team that I'm going with. But I just want to ask right off the bat, how does it feel to be one of the first soccer players from Tucson, the city of Tucson, to make it on a professional level, or at least as high a professional level as the MLS? How's that feel for you?
It's pretty incredible, to be honest. I mean, I don't really think of it until you guys actually bring it up. But actually thinking about it now, it's pretty remarkable, like where I've come from, and just the journey that I've been on. You just, you get there and you pretty much just think your dream came true finally, and at that point you just got to keep running with it.
So when you were, this is Ted, by the way, when you were in playing in high school or even just a couple of years ago, if someone had said to you, hey, you're going to be passing balls to Didier Drogba, what would you have told them?
I would have laughed. I probably just would have laughed right in their face. I never would have expected that at all. Obviously, playing in the MLS, you're going to go against big-time players like him. But when that trade came through, you had nothing but, your mind was blank at that point. You're just in shock that was actually happening, and then actually having them there on the team, it was pretty incredible. He's a great guy on the field and off the field. He helps you out as much as possible, and just being able to play with him, it is an unbelievable feeling.
It was interesting watching the game the other day, and there was obviously a little bit of an exchange between you and Drogba, and Drogba has those exchanges with players, and most of them are constructive, instructional, and he was having a go at you, and you were listening, and I know from working with you, communication's huge, and you would rather, and you would have to speak this, but in my opinion, I'd rather have a player like that saying what he wants during real time in the game instead of, sulking and just, not allowing, players on his team to adjust the team game and the game to make him more effective. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's definitely more helpful when the guy is communicating with you, whether it's on the field or off the field. But on the field, like for instance, in the game, the scenario, he was just trying to help me out as much as possible, just to do my job better, and then help each other out on the field. You want somebody, a professional like that has so much experience. You want him to be so vocal in the field and basically take leadership of the team and just help you out as much as possible.
Well, I think to that point that Drogba's made a big effect on the team, but like you guys were participating in CONCACAF Champions League. You made it all the way to the final and had a really good run there. Then when you got back into MLS and got back into the swing of things, there was a little bit of a lull. You were around mid-table, mid-season. And then you guys really picked up steam going into the last leg of the regular season, and obviously Drogba was there to sort of make that effect too. But how do you handle that momentum on a mental level going into the playoffs?
To be honest, I'm still learning as I go because it's my first year going to the playoffs. But like you said, you have momentum. You build your confidence back up. Obviously, the first part of the season didn't go so well after CONCACAF. We had our games that were good and bad, but we kept grinding out and made some changes. And now that we started getting on the right track, we just got to keep working hard and stay focused. I think that's the main priority, is just staying focused full 90 minutes of every game. And if we can do that, then I think we'll be on the winning side every time.
So, Donny, solid result at home, 2-1. Obviously, you never want to concede at home in a two-leg event, but you're up 2-1. The Columbus Crew, very good team, having a great season. Kai Kamara, Ethan Finley, Gonzalo Higuain, these are all dangerous players. Talk about what Coach Biel is, focused on, and what the game plan, what you're expecting to see in Columbus, and what you feel like you guys might need to do to make sure you're moving on to the next round.
I think what he's focused on right now is staying compact from the back line to the center mids all the way up front. We have to stay compact and pretty much just shut Kai Kamara down and Finley. I think if we can do that and just keep them in front of us at all times and win second balls, I think we'll be okay. Other than that, we just have to play the game that we've been playing lately, and that's moving the ball. We've been moving the ball really well against Toronto, and last game was a little bit sloppy, but we know we can do better than that, and if we come out with the right mentality, I think we'll be okay.
You mentioned Biello. How is it to be in a situation where there's a coaching change and it's a really kind of a dramatic one? And also along those lines too. I mean, Biello was a player for that team, one of the iconic players on that team for a long time. I mean, have you kind of picked out a kind of a mentor on the team?
I mean, it's definitely challenging switching coaches in the middle of the season, but at the same time, you're still there to do the exact same thing, and that's do your job. Whether it's a new coach that they bring in that nobody knows or one of the assistant coaches that moves up, he's still going to be in charge, and you got to listen to him and pretty much just soak everything up, and do your job.
Donny, obviously for me, seeing you play professionally is particularly rewarding since we worked together since you were 13 years old. But talk to me about how important each of the steps, as best as you can and as briefly as you can, of becoming a top club player, having the opportunity at Pima to be a leader at the JC level, moving on from there to play at RSL, be their first homegrown signing, be replaced from the team, basically let go after that initial period, start over again at FC Tucson, the experience there, the experience with Phoenix FC, a folding franchise, the experience with Chivas USA, a folded franchise, and then find yourself now in the playoffs and in a CONCACAF Champions League final. I mean, are there lessons to be learned from all levels, or is the lesson, like you said, best show up, do your job, and let the other things be what they may?
I think it's both. Obviously, there's lessons to be learned at every level that I've played at. Experience-wise, you just take everything in and you suck it up as much as possible. You make mistakes, you're going to learn from them, and I think at the end of the day, if you really love the game like I do, you're going to work hard and you're going to keep working hard until you become the best player you can be. And right now, I mean, I've been at every level for the past 3 years, and it's definitely frustrating at times, but you got to keep your head and you got to just keep working hard, and everything else will fall into place.
You know, we were joking around with you earlier about learning French. I'm just curious if you've actually eaten any poutine yet.
Yes, I love the poutine here. It is delicious.
Well, thank you for.
It's not very healthy, I'll tell you that. But
do you wash?
We can all figure that.
Do you wash that down with a Dr. Pepper just for old time's sake, or is that gone too?
Of course. Of course. If I can find a Dr. Pepper, I'll drink it.
Well, listen. Obviously, all the coaches here in town who have worked with you and all the people that love you here in Tucson aren't able to be on this interview, but for them, whether it's Dave Cosgrove at Pima or Rick at FC Tucson or your CDO coaching staff or all the people you've represented at FC Tucson and then from Tucson all the way up, we're so pleased to see you playing at the level you are. The community, the soccer community, is glued to the MLS games and watching you perform, and we just wish you all the best of luck the rest of the way through the playoffs, and hopefully we can see you here for a preseason. That would be amazing, and all the best to you, Donny.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. I mean, I wouldn't be here without all you guys, all the coaching staff that I've had prior to this. I honestly, I can't thank you guys enough. You guys are the ones who helped me work harder and put the time and effort in to make me a better player, and I can't ask much more than that besides just, like I said before, just doing my job and enjoying the sport.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Donny, and best of luck in Columbus on Sunday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, it's awesome to hear from Donny, and he's going to be playing against Columbus tomorrow. But what do you guys think? How do you guys feel about a player that has had soccer experience with FC Tucson, grew up in Tucson, played locally, and is now not only playing in the MLS but playing really well?
Well, what I've been thinking about following him this summer is if you strapped a GoPro camera on his forehead and followed him this entire year, you would see almost everything that's been exciting about Major League Soccer in 2015. You'd see a CONCACAF Champions League run ending in back-to-back games in Mexico City and in Montreal in front of gigantic crowds. You'd see a solid team that gets better and better as the season goes on. You see the acquisition and the opportunity to play with one of the greatest players of this generation, Didier Drogba. And now you're seeing a deep run into playoffs, possibly ending, as you mentioned in the interview, in an MLS Cup final. Donny's experience in this season has been incredible.
I think that Ted, you've been following Donny for a while now too. Can you speak to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, and Jonathan asked about this in the interview as well. You know that it's
Jonathan.
Jonathan, isn't that his name? Come on,
You're ruining his point.
Sorry.
No, but you know that Donny bounced around a lot, and it was not the sort of the most auspicious beginning to his career. I mean, I think he had one reserve match with RSL that did not go well, and he had to come back to play for FC Tucson. But from there, it's been this nice upward trajectory. I mean, he really, you know, I think it goes to show about perseverance and what it can do.
That's right, resilience. I mean, really, that's maybe the keynote when you talk about Donny.
We just talked to Donny, but I want to start with Sebastian Giovinco, another member of a Canadian team in the MLS. There was apparently Barcelona, of all teams, expressed interest in signing Giovinco earlier this week. Toronto said no, but I just couldn't help but think, like, if this was an American player, I think most American fans would have been like, yes, please let him go. Let him go to Barcelona. Please just let him go. We don't care that he's not going to be in MLS. Let him go get the training in Spain. But because it's Giovinco and he's contributed so much to MLS, everybody was like, no, please just keep him here.
Yeah, you know, it's funny to me because, you know, MLS is a retirement league, right?
Well, I guess maybe MLS would be more of a retirement league if Toronto had said yes to this transfer offer.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that would have been a bad sign.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting too because you know, it's always the question, and I guess the gamble that that agents have to do. And you know, when you talked about American players, I mean, how many American players you can think of that went overseas and thought, oh, I'm going to be playing for, you know, West Ham or whatever, and then ended up on the bench or not even playing in reserve games. And so that whole thing about, oh yeah, well, you're going to be getting this training that you're going to get didn't really pan out. But even with the level in MLS, but you're getting game time every week. And,
Yeah.
and you know, so is it actually better for a player to play in MLS versus being on the bench at Bayern Munich? You know, who knows?
Well, you know, for me, it's maybe kind of hard to believe that Barcelona was serious about this. Not because of the player that Giovinco is, but simply because I have a feeling they make these inquiries happen probably all the time.
Yeah.
And even the Bill Manning, the president of Toronto, said this was innocuous. Yeah. But what it does is it shines a spotlight on the kind of season Giovinco's had. And by attacking measurements, it's the best individual season in MLS history. 22 goals and 16 assists. And so, you know, Ted's kind of reference to MLS being a retirement league, this is the perfect antidote to that. I mean, here's a guy who's really in the prime of his career. He's come here to spend the prime of his career, and he's playing hard, and he's very, very productive.
Well, I think even more than the offer from Barcelona is just the fact that he's gotten call-ups from the Italian team.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think that when you talked about Barcelona making these inquiries, you know, all throughout the year and with a lot of different teams.
Yeah, I got a call last week. I mean,
yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
It was actually me and Ben
2 weeks
Carson.
ago.
Yeah,
got a call on that.
But there's no way, like, I mean, Giovinco's not going to start over Neymar. He's not going to start over Suarez. He's not going to start over Messi. I think that this was more, I mean, no matter how serious the inquiry was, I think it was more just about a really, really, really solid team building depth, and I think that that's just part of building a world-class team.
What I said wasn't meant as a criticism of Giovinco at
Absolutely
all.
not,
It's just sort of it seems to me that these contacts probably happen all of the time, and you know, you can think about it and put 2 and 2 together in a way. Barcelona got rid of Pedro. Maybe Giovinco and Pedro could play a similar kind of role in a system. But in any event, the real story here is what a great season Giovinco's had, and that he's in the prime of his career, and that he's in MLS.
Well, let's shift gears to an American who's playing in MLS who's had maybe more a rougher season than Giovinco has. Jermaine Jones, his contract is expiring at the end of the season, and his season is now over. And there are a lot of different opinions about what he should do, whether New England should keep him, sign him on a new contract, or if he should move elsewhere. And it's really unclear what he thinks he should do too. So, Ted, I know that you're a fan of New England. Why don't we start off with you? What do you think about this?
Well, I think. My first response is, well, geez, snap him up, keep him, do whatever you can do to make sure he's out there. But the Bent Musket, which is SB Nation's New England Revolution fan site, had a kind of a little survey of 4 or 5 different opinions that people that write for them have. And there were a few of them that argued, hey, look, here's a guy that missed a bunch of games due to surgery. Hasn't really come back from it. He's, I think, 32, 33?
I think he's 34.
34. And he's asking for something a little bit more longer term so his family can move to Boston. What longer term actually means, I don't know. But if you are offering him more than 2 or 3 years, you're already talking about a guy in his late 30s that's already injured. And then the question for New England fans would be at that point, if you do say, hey, you know what, thank you for your time here and let him move on. I think a lot of New England fans have not really trusted the way the front office replaces players. It took, the guy that replaced Clint Dempsey never showed up, in New England, and there's been stories like that, and so that's I think the worry of fans more than anything.
Well, expecting someone to come in and replace Clint Dempsey might be a stretch, Ted.
Yeah. Well, given that the one that actually was supposed that everyone said, oh, finally, this is the guy, was Benny Feilhaber, who was actually awful at New England, no matter how good he's been with Kansas City. So,
Well, I think another thing to consider is how valuable these designated player slots are for MLS franchises. Do you want to commit to a player who might have consistently the season that he's just had, where he's on and off injuries and inconsistent on the field when he is playing, or do you want to commit to somebody who might be younger, more like Giovinco, and go that route?
Well, the other part of that also is with Jones. Does he get offered a DP slot given the season he's had and given his injuries? Who knows?
In a way, only New England and Jermaine Jones really know about Jones's fitness going forward, and his ability to contribute in the way that he did in 2014, which was massive for New England and massive for the United States on the national team. Now, we do know Klinsmann's called Jermaine Jones up for this next round of qualifiers in November. So Klinsmann must believe that Jones is fit enough to contribute. And so I have a feeling we're not going to know what's going on here until we're told. It's a little bit hard to divine what's happening.
While we're talking about the future of players, can I throw shade at Steven Gerrard for a moment?
You can throw shade anywhere you want, Ted.
Okay, thank you.
I don't understand. What does that mean, throw shade?
I'm not sure, but I hear the kids saying that these
It's
days.
a younger term.
Well,
Yeah.
but what does it mean?
It means
Criticize?
to throw shade.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
essentially.
Steven
So you're going to
Gerrard.
criticize Steven Gerrard?
I'm going to criticize Steven Gerrard because, for one thing, if you remember in the kind of the run-up to his coming, he talked about flying back to England on a regular basis to do commentary. He talked about, it'll be nice to get a rest. Well, now he's saying, well, this might be my last season, and I had no idea that the travel would be so tough. And it's like,
he'd play at elevation.
Yeah.
Meaning
Well,
Salt Lake City and Denver. We're not talking about Bolivia here.
Yeah, I know. well, but the thing is about the distances. It's like, dude, do they have maps in Liverpool? Did he like look at an atlas and say, wow, look how far it is from L.A. to New York? That's like me flying to, Nairobi or something. I know maybe not that bad, but it's like I find it hard to believe that I mean, it tells you a little bit about sort of. I guess every time we have a European player come over here, they're always talking about how, well, look, it's tougher than I thought it would be, and for various reasons. But I kind of wonder why that never filters back over there.
Yeah, I think you're being a little bit facetious, but he seems to be casting about right now to sort of explain what happened this season. And I think there were some arguments made that maybe you could get in behind him against the Galaxy, that he wasn't tracking back, that he wasn't running. So he has talked about it, his body being maybe not in the same condition that it had been when he was younger. And it almost seemed like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And then he flipped over to, well, it's because it's so hard to play in the United States. And then I read about 2 days later that he was possibly thinking or being approached about spending the off season on loan to Liverpool. And I think, well, that's kind of rigorous. None of this seems to make any sense. I mean, it almost seems like, what I hope is happening is he's having that adjustment phase that some of the designated players coming over from Europe have had, like David Beckham had. It took him a little while to basically demonstrate that he cares about his team in Major League Soccer and that he's really going to fight for it. And knowing him, knowing the kind of player that he is, I really think that's what he intends to do. Maybe these statements are sort of the thrashing around before he's able to establish that.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here at Soccer Talk, but when we come back, we're finally going to talk about players that are still playing in MLS Cup. You're listening to Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. And we're finally going to get to previewing these games coming up tomorrow. So let's start with New York Red Bull and DC United. They played last week, and it resulted in a 1-0 win for the Red Bulls at DC. So how did you guys feel about this result? And is New York Red Bulls, are they the strongest team in MLS right now? Are they as strong as people claim they are?
Well, the only trouble I have with saying that is there's been a couple of seasons in the past where they've been, where they've gotten a supporter shield or whatever, and then it just doesn't work for them in the end. And it's always hard to, you say that, and it's like, you're talking about seasons that happened like 13 years ago or something, but still, it's this, the curse of Caricola is still there. No, I think they are the real deal, though. They've got. I'm not going to say they're the top team because I think Montreal's run over the last 2 months is pretty remarkable, and Columbus is a tough team too. Yeah, I think so. I think they've actually got the parts together, and they can pull this off.
Well, okay. Somebody needs to enlighten us here about the away goal, because isn't that going to really be decisive in a lot of these close contests coming up?
I think that one thing about the away goal, specifically in MLS, though, is that the wealth of talent, or at least the spread of talent around MLS is so even compared to other leagues that getting an away goal seems like it may be less difficult for teams in the MLS as it might be for teams in the EPL. And I think that with one away goal, it's not going to be too difficult. All it takes is one. So DC only has to score one goal, and then they can. I mean, they can't rest on their laurels, but they're back in it at that point. One goal, I don't think, is enough to count DC out of this game, especially because the parity of talent in the MLS.
Yeah, I think it would be a bigger deal if anyone managed to score multiple away goals, which no one did.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I think is worth mentioning about Red Bulls is the effect that Sacha Kljestan has had on the team. Sacha Kljestan was a great player for Chivas when they were around, and then he kind of fell off the radar for a season, and now he's come back and made a resurgence with New York Red Bulls, and he's really helped this team make it as far as they did. He definitely contributed to them winning the Supporters' Shield. How important do you think he's going to be in this game?
Well, I mean, just from my perspective, the Red Bulls are a completely different team this year than they have been for several previous years, and it's completely intentional. Their front office and their manager have built a team not based on big names, not based on star power, even though some of their stars, like Henry, were very hardworking, very successful players in MLS. This team is entirely different, and I think when you look at this at this matchup, I think Red Bulls come into this with more confidence in DC United. DC United's been a little bit defensive this year, always sort of protecting the back and not always attacking as dynamically as you want. And they have to come into New York and attack to win.
Yeah, I think also it's a story about the coaching too, because when Petke got fired, and it surprised everyone because Petke had actually led them to their most successful season in terms of points and things that they'd ever had. And then Jesse Marsch comes in, and they actually have to have a conference with their fans to make sure that they don't revolt on the team. And now the guys he got them to a better season, I think, that Petke did. Yeah, I love Petke. I think Petke was good, but
all right. Well, I think that this is a good moment to maybe move on to the next game, because we can beat New York Red Bulls to death. But okay, this is perhaps the game I'm most excited about. Not only because of Donny Toia, not only because of Didier Drogba, but just because it seems like the best matchup of the games that are laid out for us, and that's Columbus-Montreal. I think that this game is set out really well because Montreal won at home, but Columbus did get that away goal. So there are plenty of factors moving into this game, plenty of players who are on hot streaks in the season. Kai Kamara, Gonzalo Higuain, Didier Drogba. So how do you guys feel about Columbus-Montreal? Who's going to come out the victor of this game?
I think, Columbus has gotten, it's not the kind of crowds they used to get at home, but they get good crowds at home. And, there's not that factor with the weather, because, I'm sure the weather in Montreal might be worse than Columbus this time of year. So I don't know. I don't know that Columbus, wins this automatically as a home game, but I think they can do well. Then it might actually come down to that own goal. No, it wasn't an own goal. It better not come down to an own goal. No, you're right though. Kai Kamara has been remarkable for Columbus this year, and I'd be really surprised if he doesn't score.
I think that one thing that the Montreal Impact did so well in the last game, though, was shutting Kai Kamara down. I don't remember many opportunities that he had on goal, and the one goal that they did score was a mistake by none other than Didier Drogba. So, Greg, what do you think about this game?
Well, it's 2-1 on aggregate right now. Montreal leading, the first game having been in Montreal. So Columbus has an away goal. So if Columbus wins 1-0, they're through, even though it's a 2-2 draw on aggregate. This game is on a razor's edge. Now, I don't think that Columbus is going to be able to hold Montreal to 0 goals here. So as soon as Montreal gets that away goal, big trouble for Columbus. If Montreal gets the away goal first and goes up 3-1 on aggregate, I think it's going to be very hard for Columbus to manage the rest of the game. In fact, maybe that means Montreal basically plays for that first goal.
Well, Donny Toia is going to have an amazing game, obviously, and we're all going to be watching.
He's had a couple of those.
He's had a couple of those, and so has Drogba. So Montreal's set up pretty well.
I was listening. Sirius XM does. They actually broadcast the Canadian audio.
Oh yeah.
So it's the.
Is it in French?
No, they didn't go that far with it, but it was the English language ones, but it was a lot of oots and.
And the boots.
Yeah, talking about loonies, and it was crazy. But no, but how many times Toya's name was called as he broke up this play, he broke up another play. And people are, maybe they're just going to have to stop going up his side of the field. But that was good to hear as a Tucson guy.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
and if Perlman was here, he would say, we need a left back on the U.S. men's national team.
He would say that. Let's talk about the one game that's set up to act like a single elimination game, basically. That's Vancouver-Portland. These two teams had a 0-0 draw in Portland, and now they're going back to Vancouver, and someone's got to score. The game's got to end. Someone has to win. Someone has to come away from this game winning.
It surprised me that Portland couldn't break through on that one.
They had plenty of opportunities. I think that they were definitely the stronger side in that game in Portland, but I think that this is going to be a completely different story. Vancouver thrives at home typically, and Portland maybe doesn't as much. They're used to playing in that, or they enjoy playing in that home environment, and it's probably a problem for them that they couldn't take advantage of that amazing atmosphere that those fans create. What do you guys think about this game?
Well, does the away goal count if this is really just another Cascadia Cup game? I mean, aren't they all just playing in the Cascadia Cup all the time?
Wait, okay, so actually I do have a question about this. If the 90 minutes are up and it's 1-1, does Portland go through with the away goal, or does that not?
Portland doesn't have an away goal.
No, it's 0-0. That's sort of my that's my point.
No,
so
but Portland's traveling to Vancouver for this game.
If Portland scores, wow. That's a good question.
What's the question?
The question is, Portland is the away team in
Yeah.
this game. So if the score is 1-1 at the end of the game, does Portland win?
Yeah, they're
Oh,
done.
Portland. Okay, so Portland goes through. Okay, so there doesn't have to be a winner in this
So the
game.
burden here is on Vancouver.
Yeah. The burden is on Vancouver, but they're gonna have the fans on their side. Who do you guys think is the better team? Who would you guys rather see in the semifinals?
Wow. I mean, I think they're both exciting teams to watch. I mean, it's kind of hard to really decide. I mean, Portland mostly. I mean, it's just because they're a good story. I mean, they've got, and it would probably. I mean, it would be a great place to have MLS Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Timber Joey out there, and if they allow him out on MLS Cup, I don't know. By the way, when I hear the Portland broadcasts, Timber Joey does product endorsements.
Why wouldn't he?
I know, it's crazy. But anyway, so yeah, I think for as far as MLS Cup goes, I mean, it'd be great to have one in Portland. Vancouver, though, I mean, I think they're a very well coached team. I think they're better coached than Portland, frankly.
Oh.
Yeah. Did I say that? Yes, I did.
Oh, Ted.
Well, the Vancouver coach has never dissed me in an interview. I just want to say that.
All right.
Well, Vancouver's also a team that has never made it this far in the playoffs already. So they're already an exciting prospect to watch.
The only thing I'll say before we switch to Seattle, because I know we need to, is keep your eye on Darlington Nagbe. I think he is obviously a rising star.
I think
MLS.
he was called up to
he
Klinsmann's squad too.
He was, and he's becoming very important for Portland.
All right, we don't have much time left, but I think that we definitely need to talk about the Seattle-Dallas game. So Seattle wins at home 2-1, but FC Dallas is as they've proved over the course of the season, one of the most dangerous counterattacking teams in the league, and they did get that away goal. So this is the same question as the Montreal-Columbus game. How much is that away goal going to mean?
I think it's going to mean a lot in this one because this is going to be another close, hard-fought match, and if a team isn't able to win by 2 goals, that away goal is going to be really important.
Well, Seattle, there was an article today about them, this being an end of an era for them in a way, given the current set of players. Does that mean that they fight harder, or does that mean they play nervous? I don't know. This game is on a razor's edge, too, and may end up being the most exciting game of all 4.
Yeah. And it'll be really fun to see what Dallas's coach does after the game.
Well, New York Red Bulls, DC United, Columbus, Montreal, FC Dallas, Seattle, Vancouver, Portland. All those games are happening tomorrow. For Greg Foster, Ted Prezelski, I'm Connor Foster. You're listening to the Soccer Talk with FC Tucson on ESPN Tucson, 1490 and 104.9 FM. We'll see you next week.
That's the kind of feeling I just won't quit. I said, come on, girl, now this is it. Get it on in the morning.